Hello! Do you ever want a knitting pattern to be just a little bit more interesting? Like maybe you like the base pattern, but you want to add like a symbol or a fandom motif or any kind of personalized pattern to it. Well, my friend, today I'm going to take you through how I tackle that. And we're going to do it with the 2-hour dice bag, which you can get for free in the description below. But we're mostly doing this because it's my intellectual property and I can actually show you as much or as little of the pattern as I want to without screwing over another designer. Yay! So let's jump into it. So you're gonna wanna grab some graph paper and your pattern. We're gonna do it by rows because I actually list the number of rows that you need to knit in the pattern. But you can also do this by using a gauge or a gauge swatch, and just working out if it tells you X number of inches, you know how many rows are in like a 4-inch square or a 10-centimeter square. So you can then break it down using an equation to work out how many stitches or rows are in just a 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter or 1 inch by 1 inch amount. And then you can multiply that by the number of inches. Let's say we're doing a sock, right? So we've got a 10 centimeter by 10 centimeter square gauge, and we know that equals 24 stitches by 26 rows. So we want to cast on 21 centimeters around, and we want to knit up 17 centimeters. In order to know how many stitches are in just 1 centimeter, we take 24 and we divide that by 10 to get 2.4 stitches in each centimeter. And 26 divided by 10 will equal 2.6 rows in each centimeter, which then means we can work out 21 times 2.4. You would then need to cast on 50.4. So we're just gonna call that 50 stitches, but you would usually round up or down depending on what you want your pattern to be, but we'll call it 50 stitches. And then you would take 17 centimeters, or 17, multiply that by 2.6, which would give you 44.2. So we'll call it 45 rows if we want to make sure that we've got enough length. Then it gives you a clear idea, and you would be able to draw up your graph in the same way that I'm about to show you, using 50 by 45 as your full amount. So based on the pattern, we know that we are casting on 24 stitches, and then we're knitting in stockinette for 26 rows. So that's going to be our initial working space that we can then figure out how we fit the motif in. Other key information that we're going to need to know is it's worked bottom up. It has a draw cord at the top, and we also will need room to be able to seam the edges around each of the pattern pieces. So we're going to grab our graph paper and we're going to draw out the initial space. We cast on 24 stitches in this pattern. So thankfully, these are little 5mm squares, so I can cheat and just do this. And we're gonna go across 12 centimeters. Okay, so we cast on 24 stitches. I realized the cast on edge would be down here, but this is just easier. So we knit 26 rows, draw that up, then you put your cast on edge in 24, knit up 26. Done. So that's our initial space. That's the whole knitted piece, this front piece. So the first bit of key information is this is a bottom up pattern. So our cast on edge is here and we knit up to the eyelet row and then the edge. We want our motif to be upright. If you were doing a top down pattern, you either need to draw your motif upside down or draw the whole thing and then flip your chart upside down when you're working with it. So the second thing is there is a draw cord at the top of our pattern piece. That's going to shrink our visibility, as you can see here. So it gets rid of about 1/4 of our working space. So I'm going to take off 6 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and shrink our working space that much. So this is not where we want our chart to end up. You're not going to see it. And we're going to work with the motif. So now this is currently sitting at 20 rows high. The other thing is, this is a seamed pattern. Usually you have like 1 stitch is for seaming, or in this case at the bottom it's 1 row. Because I'm a little bit sloppy and I don't want this to run all the way to the edge, I'm gonna pull off 2. So we're gonna bring it back by 2 on that side, by 2 on this side, and by 2 at the bottom. So what we're left with is an 18 row high and 20 stitches across working space in order to draw our motif. So now we just need to draw in our pixel art. While I draw this in, it's worth noting there are other options where you don't have to shrink the space as much, such as stripes, which is super easy. You're just going to change colors as you knit, or Fair Isle, where you would chart it. But in this case, this pattern is knit flat. So if you do a motif, keep in mind, a motif or Fair Isle, keep in mind you'll be purling in Colourwork as well as knitting. It's not that big a deal if your tension's pretty even, but if you do struggle, you can get around this in this pattern by omitting 4 stitches total to your cast on and casting on both sides at the same time in the round. So you would cast on 44 stitches total in the round. Then you're going to repeat your chart twice, or you can draw up the whole thing with the 44 stitches by 26 rows. It also means you only need to seam the bottom, so it's pretty handy. You could also do a magic cast on and cast on just 2 double pointed needles. That way you don't even have to seam the bottom and it becomes a seamless bag. If you are knitting this in the round, you're gonna need to adjust your eyelet row as well. I recommend doing knit 1, knit 2 together, yarn over, and then your repeat's gonna be knit 2 together, yarn over until 1 stitch left before the pattern, and then you'll knit 1. That way you don't end up with a yarn over or anything at your join. Yay! So that is how you add a motif. I also made up another little bag that you would have seen in the reveal with a little Fair Isle pattern. If you liked this video, please feel free to check out any of my other videos. If you really liked this video, please feel free to subscribe. You can also follow me on Instagram at iCastMending. You can see what I get up to in between videos. I hope you have a lovely week. Bye!